Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the November 3rd, 2021 meeting of the Gaithersburg Planning Commission. Good to see everyone tonight. First up is the approval of our minutes from two meetings, and if it's all right with you, I would suggest we motion both sets of minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the minutes of October 6th, 2021, and the minutes of October 20th, 2021.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Commissioner Wessel.
Aye.
Commissioner Hopkins.
Aye.
Commissioner Kaufman.
Aye.
Commissioner Winborn.
Aye.
I'll vote aye as well. That passes unanimously. Next up is a resolution for a sketch plan revision that we have some previous work already completed on. I believe presenting from staff is Kirk Eby. Is he ready to jump on? There he comes. Not quite there yet.
Sorry, let me try that again. Good evening, planning commissioners. Tech team, well, would you please bring up page 14 in the packet?
Kirk, your picture is not up. Is that on purpose or?
That is not on purpose.
Okay. But we can see your presentation, and we can hear you.
Okay, I'll turn it on. Hopefully you can
Oh,
see
there
me
you
now.
are.
Sorry about that. I guess when I came back into Zoom, it didn't automatically.
Okay, it works now. Thanks.
So this is a meeting on sketch plan amendment application ASK-8940-2021, which is for the Spectrum at Watkins Mill, as you can see on the screen here. The amendment proposes to convert two unbuilt commercial pad sites into a new multifamily residential building, slightly reduce the overall amount of non-residential square feet, expand the list of allowed non-residential uses, and perform minor housekeeping items to provide clarity and consistency throughout the site plan. Next slide, please. So this sketch plan amendment process began with a courtesy review by the mayor and city council during their August 16th meeting. And during that meeting, the council found that the application had a minor effect and directed the planning commission to hold a public hearing and make a final decision. The commission held a public hearing on September 14th of this year, and there were no speakers from the public. And in response to comments received during the public hearing, the applicant did revise the sketch plan, and now it retains most of the non-residential square feet from the previous Z-301A sketch plan. And they also submitted an addendum to their statement noting those changes and also thanking the commission for their comments that were given during the public hearing. No other changes were made to the application and no comments were received from the public. The record closed on October 15th, 2021 with a total of 38 exhibits. Next slide, please. So this slide highlights the amount of non-residential space that has been added back to the sketch plan amendment. So on the left, the original application proposed 188,449 square feet total. And on the right is the revised application, which has increased that non-residential space to 212,100 square feet total. And staff notes that the previous Z301A sketch plan included 214,810 square feet. Next slide, please. So the purpose of tonight's meeting is for the commission to make a final decision on the sketch plan amendment application. And should the planning commission wish to approve the application, staff has included a draft resolution of approval for your consideration. Staff is supportive of the application and recommends that the planning commission, based upon the findings presented in the staff analysis, the applicant's testimony, and the evidence in the record, grant approval of sketch plan amendment application ASK-8940-2021 with no conditions. And staff is available to answer any questions.
Thanks, Kurt. Commissioners, any questions for Kurt tonight on this application? Okay. And as I sort of recall, I just paraphrase very generally when we finished up our public hearing. I don't recall any particular concerns, but just general positive support for where this was going to be moved and using that portion of the site for residential versus I think it was a one-story commercial building or a relatively small commercial building in the original plan. So
No, I remembered. I would just add that we did discuss some of that streetscape, just the components of that streetscape as it turns the corner up against the building there. But other than that, yeah, it's a very positive discussion, I thought.
And we'll see that at final site plan or I guess now, Kurt, will this go to an amended STP next, or will it go straight to a site plan?
Yes, the next step would be an amended schematic development plan,
Okay.
which would
All right.
likely go to both the commission and the council for.
So we'll see the initial, at least the initial planning for streetscape, then certainly at final site plan.
Yes.
Okay, good. All right. Any other concerns or questions or comments? All right, so staff has proposed that we approve resolution for ASK-8940-2021. Is there a motion, please?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we grant approval of sketch plan amendment ASK 8940-2021 with no conditions based upon the findings presented herein, the applicant's testimony and the evidence in the record as presented.
second,
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Commissioner Wessel,
aye,
Commissioner Hopkins,
Aye.
Commissioner Kaufman,
Aye.
Commissioner Winborn,
aye,
and I vote aye as well. Thank you very much. That passes unanimously. Thanks, Kurt, for being here tonight.
Thank you. Have a great evening.
You too. All right, that takes us to our site plan agenda, and we have two of those queued up. The first is for AFP-8890-2021 site and building improvements for the property at 425 North Frederick Avenue in the CD Quarter Development Zone. This is an amendment to final site plan, and presenting from staff is Jasmine Forbes. Good evening, Jasmine.
Good evening. So staff's before you to present amendment to final site plan application AFP-8890-2021. The applicant's requesting minor site and building improvements. The applicant's requesting a parking space waiver for 4 spaces and a drive aisle that will not meet the required 60-foot two-way module and the 43 single loaded module. The property is located at 425 North Frederick Avenue and is zoned CD. This application comes before the Planning Commission in accordance with Section 24-172A, which requires the Planning Commission to grant amendments to final site plans. And as part of this application, the applicant's also requesting approval of Final Forest Conservation Plan application EMB-8979-2021 and tree variance. Pursuant to Chapter 22 of the City Code, the Planning Commission must review and approve forest conservation plans. And tech team, can I please have sheet page number 134? And I will have John Poyer from MHP, who's going to start the presentation this evening.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
First, I want to thank you all for taking the time to consider our site plan. Our plan here is to perform a gut renovation of 78 units located at 425 and 439 North Frederick Avenue. First, I'd like to take a moment to introduce those people who will be speaking tonight. My name is John Poyer. I'm a senior project manager at MHP, and I'll oversee the details on the project. I'm also accompanied by our Vice President of Real Estate, Artie Harris. Design team includes Alan Miner with Miner Feinstein and Brian Donnelly with MHG. I'd still like to mention MHP is a nonprofit organization and the owner of this property and will be developing the property. Our primary mission is to preserve and expand the ability of quality, affordable housing in Montgomery County and nearby communities. For over 30 years, MHP has been housing, empowering families, and strengthening neighborhoods. The project itself was constructed in 1955 and has, at this time, well in need of renovation. We acquired the project in 2013 with the intent to redevelop it, and we are now preparing to do so. The property will be renovated. It will be a gut renovation. It will be turned to almost new-like condition. The rent, with the financing that we have in this project, we will be able to keep the rents affordable to people earning less than 60% of area median income. Also like to thank our financial partners in the project, Enterprise Community Partners, Bank of America, State of Maryland, Montgomery County, and of course, the city of Gaithersburg. Now I'd like to hand it off to Brian Donnelly to go ahead and proceed with the presentation.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, my name is Brian Donnelly from Recruit Hendricks and Glasscock, and I'll just kind of walk you through the plan. The staff report is pretty extensive and well written, so this should be fairly straightforward as far as my presentation goes. Pretty much everything that I'm going to say is already in the staff report, but I'm going to walk you through the proposed development. The current site contains 2.53 units and 46 residential units and 3,378 square foot of retail. As John mentioned, that the site is drastically in need of upgrading. The vast majority of the improvements will be interior renovations, and the improvements will consist of facade changes, new plantings, a new dumpster with dumpster enclosure, ADA access, reconfiguration of the parking lot, and an addition of a tot lot and playground area. As Jasmine mentioned, the application consists of 3 parts: the site plan itself, the parking waiver that is requesting a 4-space reduction, and also allow the site to continue under the current condition, since it does not meet the 60-foot module and the 43-foot standard module within the current parking code. Existing parking is set up at 10-foot width, so by restriping the parking lot, we're able to increase the parking from 69 spaces to 76 spaces. So we're actually adding additional parking, but based on the current code, we need a 4-space waiver in order to meet requirements. The majority of the improvements are to bring the site up to code. But if we can go to the next slide. You see the site is zone CD with the same CD zoning to the north and the south. To the northeast is R90 zone. And then to the south, of course, is North Frederick Avenue 355. Next slide. Currently, the site contains 4 existing buildings. The existing buildings will stay in its current configuration with no addition and no increase in gross floor area. One of the most significant site improvement is providing ADA access for the center building of the 3. And in addition to that, to the south of that second building, was the new dumpster I was describing. On the north side of the property, there's an existing stream valley buffer with a partially forested stream channel. As part of this application, we're needing to request a tree variance because of some disturbance resulting from the installation of a stormwater management facility just to the north of the 3rd building as you go plan north, working from 355 plan north. The tree will be retained, but we're going to be we're going to be impacting some of the critical root zone. Hence we'll need the variance as part of this application. Forest conservation requirement is 0.38 acres, and that'll be met by encumbering an existing a new forest conservation easement along the stream valley buffer and providing some supplemental planning within the stream valley buffer to meet the forest requirements. The site, the improvements will also include new site lighting. to bring it up to code and to just increase the, take it from a standard light to LED with shields. That's kind of in a nutshell where we are as far as the site improvement. So I'd like to just turn it over to Alan. Alan Miner is the architect who is doing the renovations, which will walk you through some of the facade changes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Being everybody. Just to kind of run through the scope of work within the buildings a little bit. This property in particular was, prior to being acquired by Montgomery Housing Partnership, was essentially unchanged since the late 1950s, early 1960s. I mean, this property still has single glazed windows and all kinds of archaic systems in it, baseboard radiators and things like that. Just efficiency wise, these buildings are in poor condition. We're going through and we're going to be replacing the electrical systems, the plumbing systems, the heating and cooling systems. Right now, currently they have window air conditioners in these units. So we'll have central heating and air conditioning. The buildings will be cleaned up. I mean, the existing brickwork hasn't been cleaned in ages. So we're going to clean up the buildings. We're adding an entry feature on each of the 3 garden residential buildings to give it some presence and a little more accentuating the entrance to the building. As it was kind of indicated, we've got currently there's no accessible units on this property, so we're creating accessibility. If you notice there, they've kind of, as Brian referred to it, central building. It's actually currently called 425B. We're introducing a couple of ramps on the front of that building to provide access into the units on that building to get accessibility. Other things that, all the buildings will get new roofs and everything. So we're going through this process with everything with the state requirements. We're doing kind of, with some regards, Energy Star certification for the buildings, National Green Building Standard, NGBS, things like that. We're doing a lot to improve the energy efficiency of the buildings and the quality of life for the residents on this property.
Alan, did you want to, were you meaning to speak from later pages in this presentation?
I mean, we do have some renderings.
Bring up slide 6.
Yeah, how about slide 5, please? That would be the existing condition.
Yeah, next page, please. Tech team.
Yes. So this is the 425A. That's the building with the retail component within it. There's 6 dwelling units on the upper story there. The first story is the Maryland carpet and tile, and that's going to stay as a retail use. So for this building, we're going to be repairing the masonry up front. And actually, where you see the cinder block on the side of the building, we're going to introduce an EFIS system there to provide the insulation, contiguous insulation for the building to improve the energy efficiency without having to gut the retail, the business owner in there, without impacting him so severely. Be able to provide some insulation, some energy efficiency to the building.
When you do that, are you able to conceal a lot of the surface mounted conduit and all, or is that still going to be part of the?
That's the smaller conduits will all get redone, and if I recall correctly, the electrical will be run underground to this building. So the overhead lines will basically go away. So yeah, even the larger conduits will be going away. So yes, the conduits and that will be hidden and things. Yes.
Okay, have the next page.
Next slide, please. Yeah. So this is one of the basically the kind of typical garden building, as I call them. There's 3 of these on this property. And you can see the window air conditioners, and trust me, those windows are all single glazed and all that kind of fun stuff. The building did have some site lighting upgrades recently, but the lighting that was installed is not dark sky compliant, and things like that. So it would all be replaced with dark sky compliant fixtures. Next slide, please. And this is a rendering of what we're intended to do with the entry to give it a little more presence and bump it up a little bit. I think there's one more slide of the renderings, but I don't think it's much different. So happy to answer any questions that you have about the architecture portion.
Let me just clarify one thing. So you're upgrading the HVAC systems for the building, and you're using truly a central system, or using some other through-wall units, or what's the solution that you guys are doing here?
HVAC split system. The condensers will be roof mounted.
Okay.
We have flat roofs on each of these buildings, so we'll do roof mounted condensers, central air handlers, and introducing makeup air to each of the units.
Okay, and is the new site lighting pole mounted or building mounted?
It is both.
Will it be both? Okay.
So there are some poles because of the parking lot and how that goes down by towards 355. There's some of those areas you couldn't cover without going to poles.
Okay. And then if you would go to the slide in your presentation, it's packet page 138. It's a photo of the existing condition. Here we go. And this might be Brian, I'm not sure, but whoever on the team wants to address it. This condition where there's sort of a change in elevation, sort of a retaining wall, sort of a guardrail, sort of a railing, first of all, we're going to discuss the point of restriping for parking counts, but are you also repaving or just sealing and sort of cleaning up what's there?
There's a substantial amount of repaving. I guess one thing I didn't mention here is we're adding automatic sprinkler systems, fire sprinklers to the buildings. So a good portion of the drive lane will be tore up to install a new water line to each building.
Sure.
So we'll have a substantial amount of work there. The rest of the parking lot will be repaired and or repaved.
So talk about this condition here, this paved area that's below to the right of the retaining wall. It doesn't really appear to be there for any particular reason. Is that what is all this about down here, kind of on the edge of the site? It just sort of runs out into the turf area.
I actually couldn't tell you what that purpose ever was for.
But I think it provides lower level access to the rear of the units.
But yeah, I mean, it only goes as far as the parking lot. So yeah, I'm not.
Because it wasn't clear on the site plan if you were going to stop the work at the retaining wall and then landscape all this, or if you're going to repave what exactly was going on down here, or even what it was for.
Yeah, it would just be part of the repaired asphalt.
Okay.
We're not currently calling for it to be removed.
Okay.
There, over in that area, there will be a pad mounted transformer for the Pepco.
So maybe go to the, just to get a perspective, if you would go to the sheet, it would be packet page, excuse me, 136, the actual site plan, or at least the diagrammatic site plan.
143 might be better.
So that area, and this doesn't show it as well, but you have 3 parking spaces, I think, stashed down in that back corner, right?
Yes.
Behind building 425D.
Yes.
So that little sort of ambiguous ramp by the retaining wall is to get to those 3 spaces, and that's about it, right?
Correct.
Okay. All right.
And if you go to the third slide in the presentation, it's a color rendering. It's a little bit easier to see.
Okay.
But there is a stream valley buffer that goes along that back edge of the retaining wall.
And for the purposes of the question, I guess I should leave it at this. We'll discuss later some of these details, but you're not changing the extent of the current paved area. It's going to be as is, but maybe with some repairs and certainly restriping. Is that fair?
That's correct.
Okay,
Yes.
perfect. Good. Commissioners, any other questions?
A question about, two questions. One is for the public. What happens to the family's displacement during this period of reconstruction? Are there any families currently occupying these apartments?
The property is fully occupied right now. We have about 11 vacancies. We are not planning on displacing anyone except for a couple of people who are over income. There are a couple of people that exceed the income qualifications, and we will be relocating them consistent with the Uniform Relocation Act. The plan for the renovation itself is we are allowing vacancy to rise through attrition. We stopped leasing back in January of this year. Once we reach enough for a full building, that building will be emptied by relocating people on site. We'll renovate that building and then move everybody from the next building into the renovated building, and then renovate that building and daisy chain around the property until we're all done. And then we'll have one vacant building to lease up at the end.
So the site condition during the renovation of a particular building, that building will be totally blocked off and run, I imagine, with a fencing of some sort for safety reasons?
Yeah, temporary construction fencing.
Temporary construction. Okay. And there's no need for any stormwater management or anything like that, despite the fact, I mean, there's no building going on physically outside except for reconditioning the exteriors.
There is stormwater management located just on the north side of the last building, just outside the limits of that retaining wall that we were looking at in the picture.
And as far as compliance with the latest stormwater management, that is in compliance, or is that something that's be upgraded as well?
There's no stormwater management on the site now, but because we were disturbing over 5,000 square feet of area, we had to bring the disturbed area, the portion of the disturbed area considered redevelopment, up to current standards. So we are proposing a bioretention facility just to the right-hand side of that building, to the lower edge of that ramp. So this ramp theoretically would give us stormwater management access.
That makes more sense. Okay. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Matt.
Just if we could stay in that area, and Brian, could you just walk us through why we pushed that pond, that dry pond, back into that tree, the drip line of that tree, rather than into the asphalt piece that sits just past the retaining wall that is in your photograph that's displayed right now? I know there's stormwater coming from the rear of the building and the front, but we're crossing that electrical line with one of the two lines anyway. Why wouldn't we put it? Just explain to us why it wouldn't be in that asphalt area.
Well, we wanted to maintain access to the rear of the property for maintenance and also access for the stormwater. But we are piping a portion of the site because of the existing ramp. The ramp is going to be lower than the front parking lot. So we'll put area drains where there's access to the lower level ramp and piping that to the stormwater and collecting a portion of the roof water and discharging it into the pond. But grade wise, this is really the best location for the site, just given the grades.
Yeah, I think you could have done it. It's the grade, right? It's the 472 that comes back around. You need I'm sorry, I'm answering your question for you, but the 472 is back where the storm drains from the roofs are coming down. So we need something lower than that, and that's why the pond has to be where it is, and that's why we're risking the tree, even though there's asphalt there. Yeah.
That's right. That's correct.
Sorry.
Get below that lower level. Yeah. All right. Any other questions? Okay. Tech team, why don't you go ahead and play the testimony instructions, please.
Good evening. If you've connected to the meeting tonight via Zoom and you're on a desktop or a laptop and you wish to make a public comment, we can't currently see or hear you. What you need to do, please, is wiggle your mouse around and look towards the bottom center of your screen. You should see a raise hand button. Go ahead and click on that now for us, please. Alternatively, if you've connected in via telephone, you can press *9.
All right, great, thanks. It's amazing how you do that the same every time. I don't know how you do it. So let me look here. The attendees, I don't see any hands up, and I've said this at all the meetings during this. We need to relax a little bit our formality here. So if somebody does want to speak, please don't hesitate to hit the hand button, and we'll get to it. In the meantime, yeah, there's nothing up right here. In the meantime, following our rules of procedure in the form, Jasmine, would you go ahead and read the recommendation from staff, please?
Staff recommends that the Planning Commission, based on the exhibit submitted, the applicant's testimony, and the staff report, findings, and recommendation, grant AFP-8890-2021.
Oh,
Sorry?
You froze right at the end.
Sorry. I'll read it over again. So staff recommends that the Planning Commission, based on the exhibit submitted, the applicant's testimony, the staff report, findings, and recommendation, grant AFP-8890-2021, EMV-8976-2021, parking waivers and tree variance, finding it in conformance with sections 24-170 and 24-172 and chapter 22 of the city code.
Great, thank you. Well, let me start by, whatever is discussed here, I think we need to say up front, this is a fantastic project, an outstanding effort on the part of MHP and the whole team. So I think we really appreciate the fact that you're bringing this project to the city for a much needed update, rehabilitation, re-energized housing, and I know this is going to be fantastic for the residents that live here. But I do think I want to at least poll commissioners on some of the details of the site plan, just because there's an opportunity to maybe at least acknowledge if there's constraints that we have to deal with, but there's also some opportunity potentially to improve some of the site conditions with maybe a nominal effort or cost. The net parking increase, I guess one thing I should have asked before we were into discussion, we were asking questions, was, is there in fact a need for a net increase in parking? Has there been pressure on the parking lot with, and I don't know what the occupancy level has been for these three buildings, but just in general, has there been pressure on the parking, and is that why the restriping is being done? Or is it really based on the calculation that we have in place?
Well, I'd say it's a kind of a combination of both, really. It gave us an opportunity to pick up more parking spaces simply by restriping and going from a 10-foot module to the standard of 9.
Right. Right, but I guess what I'm getting at, and so where I'm leading to this, is that it's that upper right-hand corner of the parking, up above building 425D. There's three little spaces up there. There's a very odd sort of transition and ramp, and I wonder if potentially dangerous condition where cars pull around and kind of hit the corner of that retaining wall. If those three spaces are needed, or if it's really more of a pedestrian access for the back building. And I'm setting aside for the moment the technicalities of what the actual parking calculation is, because you've already netted up the total from what it is today and what it's been presumably for 50, 40 years, right? So, that's why I was asking the question about the pressure. Is there a need to squeeze in those three spaces and encourage potentially some issues with vehicular access back there? And if there is, that's fine. I mean, if we need to do it, we can address that. But I also wonder if there's an opportunity to clean up that back corner and not invite some problems with cars hitting that railing, rolling over the retaining wall, whatever it might be.
If you can bring the exhibit back up, if you could, please. The site plan, the rendered site plan back up. If you could just zoom in on that corner that the commissioner was describing, if you could, please. just a little bit easier to see if you can scroll down. There we go. Perfect. The reason I wanted to highlight it, because there is an access point on the north side of 425D that does help to have a couple of parking spaces down there for that unit. And this configuration, as we said, has been in place for over 40 years and has so far not been problematic. In addition, we really didn't want to get in and disturb within the stream valley buffer and get in there and have to mitigate any additional area within the stream valley. So that the environmental regs kind of tied our hands a bit for those type of improvements. Plus, we really felt like we needed the additional parking.
Okay, that's fair. And I'll defer to you and the operators and owners that it hasn't been a problem to get cars in and out of that corner with that change in elevation or with that sort of odd ramp and transition.
Yeah, this is already with Montgomery Housing Partnership. From time to time, we do have our property management company has said to us that from time to time there can be an issue with parking at the site. So any time where we can get a few extra spaces would be great. And I do appreciate your concern about potentially hitting the retaining wall. I don't believe we've seen much of any of that today, but I really appreciate your concern there, and and you bringing this up.
All right. Other than that, I think all that's on the table as the proposal looks pretty solid. Commissioners, any comments, please?
A quick question about wayfinding or landmark on 355 as you enter the complex. Right now, there's a retail space, obviously, at the bottom of the first building, but are there any plans for a marker or something with the addressing of the three buildings that exist?
So there's currently a sign for the North Frederick Avenue apartments. If I don't forget which slide that was.
Will you be changing that or enhancing that in any way?
We would be replacing it. We would have to get into what the sign ordinances are if we can make any increases in size. But at the least, we would do it at the same size it is now.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other concerns or comments, commissioners? No?
Let me just ask another odd question and just say that there's the one bike rack up towards the front of building B, and I couldn't find any others, and I was just concerned that that there, do you guys know what kind of bike usage you have from your current residents from a proportion standpoint? Do you think that's going to be enough, and are we going to see bikes stored amateurly? We'll call it that.
I mean, currently I don't recall ever seeing a bike stored on site on the exterior.
Right.
I could be wrong in that, but I just don't recall seeing one or any. I think most people bring them into their apartments.
Okay. Now
it would be better to have safe storage outside, but I think we have a few racks, and that's it currently.
Yeah, currently there aren't any bike parking at all, any bicycle provision on site at all. So we're actually bringing the bike parking up to code and adding a bike rack.
Yeah, I'm sure it's up to code. I was just concerned that it might be a heavier usage than your one bike rack, or really it's two bike racks, I guess, one pad would need. But I guess it's just a thought for you to keep track of over the next couple of years, that the Planning Commission would be eager to see another bike rack should it be needed.
Great point. All right, any other any other comments?
This is Danny. I did want to echo what Chair Bauer said. It really is great to see an update. This is going to be a nice fresh update in addition to the main thoroughfare through Gaithersburg, and I'm looking forward to it. I know we haven't voted yet, but I'm looking forward to it.
All right, very good. Thanks, Danny. Phil, Lloyd, anything else? Matt, anything else? Okay. So we have a recommendation from staff. Is there a motion, please, from the commission?
Mr. Chair, I move that, let me get to the staff report here. 1 second. Thought I had it all queued up. Staff report. Mr. Chair, I move that the Planning Commission, based on the exhibit submitted, applicant's testimony and staff reports, findings and recommendations, grant AFP 8890-2021 and ENV 8976-2021 parking waivers and tree variance, finding it in conformance with section 24-170 and 24-172A and chapter 22 of the city code with 0 conditions.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Commissioner Wessel,
Aye.
Commissioner Hopkins,
Aye.
Commissioner Kaufman,
Aye.
Commissioner Winborn,
Aye.
and I'll vote aye as well. Thank you very much. That passes unanimously. And to MHP and the team, thank you very much for bringing this project into the city, and good luck. Let us know if there's anything you need.
Thank you so much.
Good luck.
Is that approval for both sites? We talked mostly about 425.
Nope, we got another one.
There's one
A
more.
whole new one.
You're not done with it yet.
I was getting ahead of myself.
Funny how that works. Okay, that's great. Thanks. I had to smile because on the site plan, the property records still show Red Barn on the adjacent property, and that just takes me back a few years. So
Well, on the next one over, that shows Pizza Hut.
yeah, well, that's less distant history, but yeah. Okay, so then that takes us to AFP, next site plan, AFP-8894-2021, site and building improvements for the property at 439 North Frederick Avenue in the CD Corridor Development Zone. This is again an amendment to final site plan. Jasmine, you're back on.
Okay. Staff's before you to present amendment to final site plan application AFP-8894-2021. The applicant's requesting minor site and building improvements, a parking space waiver for 6 spaces and a drive aisle that will not meet the 60-foot two-way module. The application comes before the Planning Commission in accordance with section 24-172A, which requires the Planning Commission to grant amendments to approve final site plans. As part of the application, the applicant's also requesting approval of Final Forest Conservation Plan application EMV-8977-2021 and a tree variance. Pursuant to Chapter 22 of the City Code, the Planning Commission must review and approve forest conservation plans, and I will turn it back to John Poyer from MHP to go over this site. And tech team, can I have sheet page 209?
Well, as I was trying to have it all approved at once, my comments were really all delivered all at once. So everything I'd said before is these projects are really right next to each other. As you can see, they almost are touching, just not quite. Everything I described in the original part, in my original comments, applies to both.
All right, very good. Thank you. So where do we go next?
Brian should pick it up on
How
the.
about if we move to the 3rd slide, which is the rendered site plan?
Tech team, go next 2 pages.
2 pages. There we go. Perfect. Yes, this is pretty much the sister property to the one we just discussed, and it's separated by one retail parcel to the north. This property is just over an acre, 1.02 acres, containing 33 existing units in the 3 buildings. The existing paving will remain the same. We will restripe it similar to the previous property to the current code of 9-foot spaces. The existing paving is going to remain the same, but that's why we really need the parking waiver similar to the previous application, is because the parking module doesn't meet the 60-foot nominal width. So we need to ask for a waiver based on the reduction of the width plus the number of parking spaces. The current site has 35 parking spaces. So by restriping the parking, we're able to gain an additional 5 spaces up to 40. However, we're still six spaces short of the required code spaces, so we are asking for a 6-space waiver. These 2 properties were built about the same time. So we have the 2 sites basically in the same kind of condition. Both buildings are all brick, 3-story walk-up buildings. Similar to the previous site, we're going to be, this one has an existing dumpster, except we're going to renovate it and add additional screening. Currently, it's just an open chain link fence, and we'll be adding vinyl slats in order to create like an opaque screen to the dumpster. This particular site has an existing playground, but it's in very poor condition, so we're going to upgrade the playground and provide ADA access to the play surface, as well as adding bike parking and additional ADA spaces to bring it to code. In this case, the forest conservation is being met on site just through tree plantings. The forest conservation requirement is just over 6,700 square feet, and that's being met with a tree canopy by maintaining an existing large specimen tree and then doing supplemental plantings to make up the difference. You can go to the next slide. We can just kind of walk through. It's like I said, it's very similar condition of the buildings. You go to the next slide. Shows a second view. In this view, you can see the existing dumpster. There is slats, but a lot of them are missing. You can kind of see through the majority of it. So we're going to put in, an opaque surface in order to properly screen the site. I think, given what we've discussed in the last application, I think I'll just leave it to questions if there's anything specific to this site. The building elevations are going to pretty much remain similar to where we were in the last application. So we can, but go to the next slide, if you could. That kind of shows the conditions of the existing kind of antiquated play equipment that's out there. So these railroad ties will be replaced. We'll put a new surface in and new equipment.
Okay.
So if we want to go to the building elevations again, we can, I guess we've already kind of seen the building elevations in concept. So I'll leave it, maybe just leave it up to any questions by the commission.
Why don't you go ahead and finish clicking through the presentation deck, and that way we. Oh, you didn't have elevations in this one. Actually.
Yeah, so with this property,
there was already improvements done on the elevations a few years ago, though, right?
yeah, I think it was probably around 2013, 2014.
Yeah.
That the panels underneath the windows were added and the canopies were added. So we're going to be going through and just kind of doing a facelift on these things, cleaning them up. As you can see, the window air conditioners have done quite a bit of staining with their condensate coming down and things like that. So we're going to clean that up and make that all look uniform and refreshed. And this property will get new roofs. The windows were replaced again 7 or 8 years ago. Those will not be replaced through this one. Site lighting will get done, and this property will get new systems, plumbing, heating, cooling, electrical systems, all of that kind of same program as the previous site, with things just getting, less work on the outside on this one other than cleaning up what's already here.
Okay. Very good. And I meant to ask it on the last one, it's a minor detail, but there appears to be some ventilation, probably to kitchen hoods, I don't know, or to something on the other, or bathroom vents on the outside. Those are going to stay there, I would guess, in some form.
They will actually be changed. Right now, those are, if you're familiar with them, kind of the old Brown Newtone through the wall fans that have like a 10-inch hole to them.
Oh, above this in the kitchens? In the kitchens.
Oh, yeah. And they'll be replaced with a standard louver, a small, like a 7-inch round duct, much smaller hood feature to them.
Okay, good. And one other detail I want to cover, on the rendered site plan, it may be just a drafting thing, but along the edge where the parallel parking is striped, there's sort of an irregular module there. I'm not sure what's going on. If you could pull that up, it would be sheet.
211.
Yeah, 211. Yeah, and just if you imagine just coming in the curb cut, coming in the driveway, main entrance, along that right edge, there's sort of an irregular striping and some blocked out areas. What's going on along there?
The entrance to the facility is offset slightly from the drive aisle. So
oh no, I understand that, but look past that the striped out area, the blocked out area, and what appears to be parallel spaces above it. Is that what's happening up there?
That's correct. Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, but they're sort of irregular. There's some double lines, single lines, and then there's some blocked out areas. And I didn't know what.
Yeah, I think it's probably remnants of the existing parking.
Okay. Got it. Very good. Thank you. Great. Commissioners, any questions?
Nope,
No?
pretty straightforward.
What's that, Matt?
Pretty straightforward. Nope.
Pretty straightforward. Yeah, indeed it is. All right. So just to keep our form in order here, tech team, please play the testimony video.
Good evening. If you've connected to the meeting tonight via Zoom and you're on a desktop or a laptop and you wish to make a public comment, we can't currently see or hear you. What you need to do, please, is wiggle your mouse around and look towards the bottom center of your screen. You should see a raise hand button. Go ahead and click on that now for us, please. Alternatively, if you've connected in via telephone, you can press *9.
Okay, thank you for that. And I'll keep an eye on the attendees here for any hands that might go up. In the meantime, Jasmine, let's do the recommendation, please.
So staff recommends that the Planning Commission, based on the exhibit submitted, the applicant's testimony, and staff report findings and recommendation, grant AFP-8894-2021, EMV-8977-2021, parking waivers and tree variance, finding it in conformance with sections 24-170 and 24-172A and chapter 22 of the city code with one condition.
Great, thanks, Jasmine. I think similar to the last one, the parking waiver, based on the historic use of the property and some reassurance that netting it up is only going to improve things, and there apparently was only modest, if any, problems at all with the existing parking. I don't see any issue with what ultimately becomes a waiver based on a new calculation, not a new demand. I'm comfortable with that, and I think like the last one, thank you, team, for bringing this to the city. The soon-to-be newly renovated affordable housing. It's a fantastic thing to see happening. So, commissioners, any other comments or concerns? No. Okay. So with that, and I'm going to double check our attendee list, and I don't see any hands up. So let's go with a motion to close this out, please.
All right, Mr. Chair, I move that the Planning Commission, based on the exhibits submitted, the applicant's testimony, and the staff report, findings and recommendation, grant AFP-8894-2021, ENV 8977-2021, parking waivers and tree variance, finding it in conformance with sections 24-170 and 24-172 and chapter 22 of the city code with the one condition, and it wasn't read, so I'll read it. Applicant to provide approval from WSSC for all light poles located within WSSC's easement prior to issuance of a site development permit.
Second,
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Commissioner Wessel,
Aye.
Commissioner Hopkins,
Aye.
Commissioner Kaufman,
aye.
Commissioner Winborn,
Aye.
and I'll vote aye. Thank you all very much again. Fantastic this is coming to the city. Commissioners, offer your thanks as well, please.
This is fantastic. Thank you so much. This is gonna be a great upgrade to the city and our main boulevard there.
Yeah,
It's a great use, but we should also just congratulate you for reusing existing facilities. It's one of the greenest things we could possibly do, and we're appreciative of that also.
We appreciate your time and thank you.
all.
Thank you all very much. Good luck.
All right, thank you so much.
Thanks, Jeff.
Next up, we have from the commission, Matt, may I start with you?
No, nothing for me.
Nothing. Okay. Lloyd, anything tonight?
I just want to congratulate Jim McNulty, Lisa Henderson, and of course, Mayor Judd Ashman on his reelection and the selection to the city council. And the only disappointment is that only 12% of the total voting population in the city voted. And hope next time we can get more out there, but it's great to see at least we've got some civic-minded people out there who really care about the city as much as we do and look forward to working with them in the future.
Great point. Although it is technically unofficial, but yes. By all.
It wasn't rigged, was it?
No. I'm just saying it was, by legal standards, it hasn't, it's not quite official yet, but pretty clear. Pretty clear. So yeah, great. Thank you for that comment. Phil, anything tonight?
Nope, nothing for me.
All right, Danny.
Yes, I want to just associate myself with what Lloyd just said. It was great to see the election come off, and it's going to be nice and exciting to see some new fresh faces on the city council. I'm looking forward to those individuals. I've known Lisa Henderson for over 15 years. She is a fantastic and a smart person. I think she's going to add a lot. And Jim, I guess third time's a charm, and we're looking forward to seeing him. And of course, Mayor Judd, he's just a great ambassador for the city. So we're looking forward to continued great things from him. I did, based on what you requested, Chair Bauer, I wanted to just talk about the Maryland Planning Commissioners Association's 38th annual conference. We were planning on having it in person. And that's why we had the theme, let's get back to it. We thought we'd be in person and we could just, network and work together. But unfortunately, we erred on the side of caution and we had a virtual conference, but it was very well attended. We had over 80 folks. It was wonderful. And we had our own Frank Johnson Esquire, who provided, along with Ms. Ishak, I hope I pronounced her name right. I'm not sure if I did or not, but
April Ishak, yes, you're right.
Okay, yeah, they provided the Open Meeting Training Act training for us, and that was always well received, and there are lots of people who always take advantage of that, and it is a valuable tool for everyone. So I'm glad that Frank is always willing to do that. We always call upon him, and thank you very much, Frank. I'll be sending you my own personal thanks again, as I did last year. We were on from October 25th to this 27th. We had to spread it out a little bit because we were going through WebEx, and we did a webinar format. But one of the nicest things about this conference is that we were able to recognize and spotlight some of the great work that's going on in and around the state. And one of the individuals that we recognized was a lady, I forgot her name, and I'm so sorry I don't have her name. I'll share it with you later. But she spearheaded the renovation of a row of townhomes or row homes in Baltimore. I think 38. I think there are 20 and that they've done, and that's just a wonderful, wonderful vibrancy to the city of Baltimore. I'm from Baltimore, as you all well know. And unfortunately, Baltimore has about 15,000 or 16,000 abandoned row homes. So, just that effort of just trying to do it a little bit at a time just makes all the difference in the world. And I'm hoping that more of that can happen. But it was great to see what she was able to do. And what she said was that through some partnerships with the state of Maryland and federal government, I think individuals who purchased those homes, which were completely renovated, brand new granite countertop kitchens, all new appliances and that kind of thing. I think they were all about 3,000 square feet, which is a lot of house. They will move into those houses with $80,000 worth of equity based on some of the incentives that we're given. And that is the kind of thing that we need to be doing. And it was so exciting to be able to spotlight that at our conference. We are looking forward to having a conference in person next year in Solomon's Island. And I'm hoping that you, my good colleagues, can join us next year. I'm in the second year of my 2-year stint as president, and I'm looking forward to sitting back next year and not working so hard. After this year, not now, but when we get a new president. But it is always exciting for me to work with individuals and meet individuals across the state. And I'm also a part of a consortium. So I also work with folks from West Virginia, Virginia, and DC. So, I hope you all had an opportunity to take advantage of some of our seminars that we had. And if not, we did record many of them, so you can go out to the Maryland Department of Planning website and look at those. Secretary McCord did join us and welcome us at the beginning of it. So if you do, as I said, if you didn't get a chance to be with us, you can go out and look at some of the seminars that we held. So that's my report, Chair Bauer.
Thank you. Yeah, I was able to join for a couple of the sessions, the annual meeting and one of the updates, or one of the sort of insight sessions. It's interesting. We're kind of in a world where I think we're a little zoomed and Zoom meetinged out a little bit. It's all right, but the material was really strong, and it was a fresh kind of way to see things. Not, it wasn't just work. It was some interesting information. So I hope a lot of people got something out of it. It was if you had any doubts, it was well done. I mean, it really was. And given the constraints you're up against, and probably what was a last minute pivot to go from the in-person to the online, that probably threw a lot of challenges in front of you guys too. Yes. And I think you did a fantastic job pulling it together. So congratulations on that.
Well, thank you.
But we'll look forward to some in-person encounters next year, I guess.
Okay.
Thanks, Danny. So Greg, you want to update us on meetings? And
yeah, all I got for tonight is the next planning commission meeting is November 17th.
Great. Yeah, we're winding down the year, aren't we?
Yep. And just a reminder, we only have one meeting in December, and that's December 1st. And I'll be sending an email out shortly. I'm pulling for availability.
Okay. And Mr. Slipting, thanks for being as Director of Planning and Code.
Absolutely. Good evening, Chair Bauer and Planning Commissioners. I don't have too much tonight, but I did want to mention that our pipeline has got a lot in it right now. So please anticipate a lot of joint public hearings the first quarter of 2022. And also, I just wanted to mention that Tanisha is really revamping our strategic plan process. And we had a Saturday senior leadership team and mayor and council session at the end of September. And this coming Tuesday, the senior leadership team is having a full day retreat. And then there is a 2-day retreat in January. So, and that involves both the mayor and council and the senior leadership team. So lots going on that. You know, I don't anticipate too many changes to our direction, but it is a kind of a refreshment of, you know, what we're looking at and then the goals for the city. So, and with 2 new council members, it's going to be a very interesting process. So, and if you all have any input, let me know. And that's
Are
it.
you, is this, so you're taking the strategic plan essentially for the update to 2022, is getting prepared for that? Is that what's happening?
That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah, it will be voted on in June.
Yeah.
For actually, it's 2023 is the
Or fiscal, right?
year.
Yeah. Okay.
We're in
Yeah.
2022 right now.
Yeah. Good point. All right, great. Well, thanks for that update. By the way, any after now the dust has settled on the master plan for Lake Forest, any activity there worth noting?
We are in discussions with a couple of different groups. Nothing I can go public with right now,
Sure.
but there is significant activity. I will say that.
Great. Good to hear. It's always good, and I fully respect and understand you can't talk about a lot of those things publicly until it's time, but I think it's always reassuring to just say, yeah, there's interest, right? There's some active discussions. That's good to hear. Appreciate that. All right.
I'll note for the record, John, that in the appendix there was the Gaithersburg strategic plan draft from last year, and then also they stuck in that memo about what master plans are. So a little staff sort of putting the appendix stuff that's nice to read just for the question you just had, which is good.
Yeah. All right. So Frank, thanks for joining us. Sorry we didn't have any legal challenges for you to wrestle with. You know, we need to start mixing up with these applicants more, I think. But
I will point out that in terms of the voters and the turnout for the election, it may be that there were a lot of votes, both early voting and by mail this time, because the city used a different process where everybody could request a mail-in ballot, and many did. But yesterday there were many more voters than were expected, about 4 times more than what the city attorney's office actually ends up handling. We have an election clerk, Lauren Klingler, who handles all that. My point is that 12.5% or whatever the 12% turnout was actually higher than it has been in recent elections. And they were all up until after 2:30 in the morning to try to get everything done and get everything in place. This is still unofficial. Certification will take the next few days, partly because if mailed ballots were mailed by November 2nd, they can arrive for the next couple of days. That was a change made a couple of years ago, but they should be able to certify towards the end of the week, and they don't anticipate a change, even with the counting of some additional votes in the totals. But it's just a tremendous amount of work by, not including myself. I kind of handle some of the other things that come in, but certainly by our city attorney and both of our paralegals, Wes Rhodes and Lauren Klingler, and a lot of folks from Public Works also helped in terms of the collection of the ballots this year. So the election, this was a different way to handle it, but it did result in actually higher turnout than in recent years.
Thank you, Frank, for that clarification. I appreciate that.
Sure. No, just passing on. I know it still seems small compared to the number of voters, but municipalities are always sometimes a challenge to get people to come out and vote. So,
Okay. Well, thanks, Frank, for that. All right, if there aren't any other comments or anything to bring up, I'm not seeing anybody flailing arms to try to jump in. So have a good evening, and we're adjourned.